Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. Another edition of Wednesday Night Live. I'm in Austin. Eric's in the Houston area. Justin, you are up in East Texas. We got Longhorn football to talk about. Steve Sarkisian spoke today at the Touchdown Club of Houston. And of course, there are portal recruitments that we got to take note of as well. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, help us out. We're just crossed 7,000 subscribers. Help us get to 8,000 so we can keep a lot of great things coming on this channel between inside looks at the roster, X's and O's, anything else, recruiting. Help us out. Give us a like, give us a subscription, and come to InsideTexas.com. You can use the promo code IT1. Get 2 months for $1. That'll get you into July. But the way recruiting works these days, heck, maybe somebody will even have been committed by then after the June official visit. So, Justin, I see one of the first comments is an update on Dominic Williams. I know that this is what people wanted right off the jump. You posted today on Inside Texas, I believe, a little bit of intel and on timing, some of the other schools involved, and what's the latest you've got on Dominic Williams as that recruitment seems to be coming to a finish line in the near future?
Yeah, we're doing like 24-hour cycle on this recruitment. I had an update at InsideTexas.com at 12:30 late last night, early this morning. Just trying to connect with sources close to the program. You know, it's going to be a Texas, LSU, Oklahoma, Missouri battle. I feel like kind of feels like LSU and Texas might be the two teams that are probably jockeying for that first spot, that big spot. But he's going to announce on Thursday. We don't have a time yet on that. He just left LSU this morning. He had been there for the last few days. Anybody that's seen his some of his family on Twitter, they'd see that they took him out to eat and they lit his dessert literally on fire. And so he's having fun. He's going through another round of recruitments. This time a little bit more importance, I think, and a little bit more emphasis, obviously. But it's a big thing. I think it's going to come down to LSU and Texas. I think Texas has a little bit of confidence. I think LSU has a little bit of confidence. With portal defensive tackles, I feel like everyone is different. It's hard to handicap these guys. High school recruiting is easier in my mind. This portal stuff has so many different angles that you have to take into account. And then the last thing on Dominic Williams, Coach Landers, who was very, very close to Dominic and his family, he's been with him throughout all of his trips, just tweeted about 12 minutes ago, tick-tock, 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 constantly. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at right now. We'll see even more in the morning time.
Eric, on your end of things, talking to your sources with Texas and around this recruitment, what's your read on this on Dominic Williams?
There's been some optimism on the Texas side. When I hear it, I can understand why they're optimistic, but I don't have it corroborated anywhere else that they're, I haven't backed up that optimism with any outside sources. So I'm not buying into it yet. If they're optimistic, I'm sure they have good reason for it. But I need a corroborating source to get me excited. We're one phone call away from perhaps blowing it up one way or the other, and letting our readers know, giving them at least a good idea through our various ways of hinting how Texas is. But I don't have that yet. And, like I've been saying since he came out through the portal, I said, we might not know where he's going to go to the last hour, and we might not even know then. So this is no surprise that it's going down like this. I'd expect it to. For obvious reasons, they're going to play it out as long as possible and get people competing for services. That's a smart thing to do business-wise. And so that's where we're at.
And with Kenny Baker making an appearance in DFW tonight, to see that family one more time, I like that from Texas. I like that last gas. Try to get that last little bit of FaceTime before that family makes a decision. Texas is all in, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think he has an answer yet, right? So if he doesn't know, it's impossible for anybody else to know.
Good point.
But if Texas feels optimistic, then we'll see. We'll see how the next day goes. Like I said, some of these recruitments are just going to come down to the last hour. And we'll see how it plays out. Just read between the lines here. It's LSU.
This is one of those recruitments. It's kind of fun. It seems like nobody's been told yet what the decision is, whether they're in, whether they're out. And that always creates a pretty fun amount of intrigue, I feel like, up to the last minute. Good question from Michael Gresser. how do you guys view the corner target from San Jose State compared to Terrence Brooks? That would be Javion Cole, and I got his Pro Football Focus grades popped up right here, playing for San Jose State. And I guess if you want to look at maybe some of their better games, playing against USC, had some good performances there. Of course, that's an air raid offense he had to go against. But in the Mountain West, and our own Charlie Williams scouted him, coached against him while he was at UNLV. In the Mountain West, across a full season, 86.2 defensive grade across a full year. Started at Cal Poly, played well there, transferred to San Jose State. And as I look up what Terrence Brooks did, according to PFF, 62.9. Obviously, different levels of competition. Cole is visiting Texas tomorrow. He will then probably go to Auburn, I believe. Michigan State's involved in this recruitment as well. May not get a visit, however, they're trying to. But they did just get an Arizona State defensive back. But with Brooks's departure, this is someone that I think Texas is kind of checking in on. I'm reading off a scouting report that Charlie Williams sent. He's fluid, plays the ball well, has experience playing quarters coverage, has great footwork, can press and run, and has good makeup speed. So there's a lot to like from him. And I think you can take Pro Football Focus for whatever it's worth, but having something above 85, I think, is a solid thing to base on. Justin, anything on Cole or recruiting cornerbacks or defensive backs from the portal?
No, I think it's it's kind of like what we talked about with Williams. We don't really know yet with portal recruiting. It's really a day-to-day, phone call to phone call type process where you just got to look at all the angles. And so I like Texas being proactive. Eric talked about this before the portal opened. He said it's not just going to be D linemen for this group. There's going to be they're going to look to upgrade at every spot if they could potentially. And so I think that's what we see here. You hate that you're trading Terrence Brooks essentially for this guy, especially a guy with 2 years of starting experience, but that's the way it is. That's how the ball rolls. And so with Cole, hey, bring him in, let him get in the rotation, see how he fits.
Eric, kind of to that point, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think it's, there's no point in comparing it to Brooks because, that marriage was over. It was time for a clean split between Brooks and Texas, and they got it. So now we're talking about how good is Cole. Charlie was at UNLV. I think that's widely known, our Charlie Williams on InsideTexas.com. UNLV had one of the best wide receivers in the country last year in Ricky White, and Cole went up against him, and Cole held his own quite well. UNLV had a good quarterback too. Quarterback turned down Georgia to go to USC in the most recent portal window. Went up against a number of good quarterbacks this season. And Charlie likes him quite a bit. If Charlie likes him quite a bit, I like him quite a bit. It's unfortunate it didn't work out with Terrence Brooks, but this is, be grateful that they're able to adapt this quickly and bring in new competition, perhaps even a new starter. And let's see, bottom line, he upgrades the roster. We know that without a doubt, that Cole would upgrade the roster the second he gets to Austin. If they
as far as that UNLV matchup, he was targeted 4 times, 1 catch, 8 yards, had 2 pass breakups. So
okay, that sounds pretty good to me. That was a good combination between the quarterback and Ricky White. I forget the quarterback's name. That guy's really good, though. I would take him on that alone.
Eric, that kind of leads into a good thing that Steve Sarkisian talked about today in his transfer portal strategy. I wanted to ask him about Bill Norton, and you can see all his full comments here on this channel. Probably just scroll right down after you're done watching this. But I asked him if he can't comment on Bill Norton yet officially because they haven't signed him. Weird process with the portal, nothing to see there. But he talked about with the portal, they're not really looking like maybe at a certain position. We know that they have needs maybe at some spot or once, I guess, at this point, but he didn't really go specific about like, oh yeah, we need to go get a safety, or oh yeah, we need to get an offensive line. Is that kind of jive with what you've heard behind the scenes as well?
Yeah, and what I've reported on Inside Texas now, honestly, they're not going to go take a quarterback, running back, or a wide receiver, but pretty much every other position, if they're good enough to upgrade the roster and to improve their bottom line next year, and they fit within the culture, they're going to explore it. And that's exactly how it should be. You don't want to bring in there's no point in bringing in a wide receiver. A, they cost too much. B, you've got plenty of them already. Running back is stacked, obviously, and quarterback, obviously we all know the situation there. But everywhere else, I think they would bring in somebody if they upgraded. Now it's going to be tough to upgrade just because of the baseline talent on the roster is very good. Competition throughout the roster is very good. But if they do find somebody that upgrades them at a position where it's possible at corner, maybe linebacker, they just lost Blackshear as we expected. Now they're lacking some experience there. They've got 3 guys with real experience and then not much behind them. So, maybe there's a linebacker still out there, but they're always proactive. I think I've seen fans often worry if they're doing everything they can. This staff is always doing everything they can to improve the roster.
Justin, we got a good super chat from our friend Brett Nelson asking about Lance Jackson. Does he end up a 5-star at the end? What are you thinking on this one?
I think he does. Whether he's ranked as a 5-star in the final rankings, I think he's a 5-star anyway. And I've always had to kind of be leery on this one because I've known him for a long time, and I see a 5-star there, but I don't want to give it too much weight because of where I'm at and things of that sort. And then I read Eric talking about that this is a 5-star, so I'm convinced now that yes, it's not just my eyes in this area. He's a stud, and he's going to be at the NIL, the On3 Elite deal in Nashville next month, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, this is a kid that with a big senior year, he could easily be a 5-star. He's a 5-star talent, and to me, that's probably the most important of all of it. He can do so many different things. He's coming off a collarbone shoulder injury he'd suffered at one of the Under Armour camps a couple months ago, but he's back working out. He's back doing stuff with the football program. He's not playing baseball anymore. I know that really sucked because that was his true love, but I don't know if he's going to be a 5-star ranked when we get done, but I think he has 5-star ability and he's a 5-star kid. And so for me, and then Eric obviously calling him a 5-star in a story recently, that made me feel better about that evaluation.
He's as you can see, he's in the top 103 of the 4 major services. On3 ranks him higher than anybody else at 37 in the country, 4 at his position, and number 10 in Texas. And he's also got I guess you want to call it the pedigree with his brother, also a former 5-star as well.
His dad, former college athlete, his mom, former college athlete. It's in their DNA, man. They are competitors.
He would be an elite tight end too. He would be an elite tight end. That's gonna boost the rating. And like Justin said, On3 inviting him to that elite camp or that elite conference. I guess that's what it is, a conference at the end of this month. I think that's kind of a leading indicator of what they think about him. I wouldn't be surprised. Somebody's going to rank him a 5-star. Somebody probably smart.
I got a few questions to go through here. Thank you for getting those in, and make sure you get those questions in. Glad to answer them. Height and weight of the DB. Pro Football Focus lists him at 5'10", 175. Just to knock that one out of the way.
I didn't realize he's only 5. See, that tells you so much about him. If Texas likes him and he's 5'10", that means he's a baller.
Yeah,
they're size queens when it comes to DBs. So they normally want the longer corner. Like Malik Muhammad is not quite as big as they would normally like, but Malik is just too damn good to not take him, despite him not being 6'2" or whatever. I didn't know that guy was that size. So that tells me a lot. That kid's an athlete.
I think they're size queens at all the positions except for punter.
Pretty much, yeah, and quarterback with Lacey this year. But then you look at all the other guys in that room. I think they are size queens, and going into the SEC, that's kind of the way to go.
Here's another good question: is Kendrick Blackshire leaving a big loss? Did you see him in the spring game? Like, he wasn't out there with the first team.
Rule number 1: if you miss spelling his name that poorly, it's not a big loss.
Hey. Listen, I was told by a friend that, he got a bag from Texas and he probably ate it.
Yeah.
And so hopefully he lands in a better spot that can potentially, shed some of those pounds.
That's a good line.
Like I wrote, you either buy in or buy.
And then let's see, Michael Esperanza. Any of these corner portal targets, Nick Saban tampering worthy? Don't know about that, but I think that does lead to a good discussion. And I think a lot of, I'm not going to act too naive about Saban's comments, but I think what it did show, and this is what I wrote about on Inside Texas, is that you better be scouting the lower ranks. You better have guys who are paying attention to who the best players in the MAC or in the Mountain West are, because those guys could enter the portal. And as soon as that happens, whether they were, feelers, communication, any of that was put out, you don't want to be playing from behind. And if you don't know about a guy and the first time you learn about him is when his name pops up in the portal, you're already playing from behind, in my
Right.
opinion. Justin, I found a good recruiting question, for you from Antoine. What happened with the Taz Williams recruitment? He's a wide receiver, 2025 class from Red Oak, obviously a quality prospect. But Justin, what's happened with the Taz Williams?
I don't think anything particular has happened. I just think the board, the wide receiver board, I think the position boards across everything they change. It's fluid. And in Texas, they still talk to Taz Williams. He has an offer. They still talk about a visit. But Taz is a guy that has 50 offers. And anytime you see a guy with over 30 something offers, usually it's an indicator of a lot of potential, but at the same time, that's a lot of offers, guys. That's a lot of teams, putting their hat in it. And some guys won't even offer when they've seen too many guys get the offers because they feel like they're not going to be in it. Well, Taz gives everyone the impression they're in it. And that's the way he likes it. He's a Pittsburgh native. I think he goes out of state, guys. I think Michigan is a school to watch. I was talking to On3's EJ Holland recently about him, and Michigan really likes him. And he's been up there a few times. I think he's got an official there in late May or early June. And so they're going to be in the mix. I think this is going to be an out-of-state kid. And we saw Taz a couple months ago at a track meet. He's gotten bigger. He's gotten stronger. Like, he's grown into his wide receiver position. I think if he's in 2024, he's a higher-ranked guy. I just feel like there's so many of the receivers in 2025. Sometimes his name gets lost in the mix a little bit, but I don't think anything necessarily happened. I think him and Texas still talk. I just think Texas has their eyes on a few other guys just a little higher on the board. From DK Moore, Jamie French, Andrew Marsh, Marcus Harris, Kalik Lockett, Kelshawn Johnson. I just feel like they probably have a couple other guys higher up, but it's nothing against Taz Williams. That kid has a lot of offers, and I think he deserves them. He's a talented guy.
He's fun to watch. Michigan would be really good for him, I think.
Really? Yeah. I feel that too. I feel that way too. His dad has been great to Inside Texas. I'm a big Taz fan, and I always will be. They're good people.
I think he's visited Florida State as well, right? So he's obviously he's catching the attention of some of the great programs with some good offenses. Michigan's a little bit everywhere. Yeah, Michigan's a little bit different style. Hey, now that you can go on more than 5 official visits, why not rack up the frequent flyer miles? This comment from Roaster, if I can find it, but can lead in a little bit to what Eric and I saw today in Houston. Was Steve Sarkisian spoke with the Houston Touchdown Club today. There we go. He spoke with the Houston Touchdown Club. He was able to, he goes to this often. He speaks to the media first. Eric and I, you were there. And then he speaks to the room. And it's people who support the Touchdown Club, a great organization, fans, Letterman, former athletic director Mike Perrin was there. Drew Kelson was not, but he's been there in the past. And this was one of the more confident we've ever really heard Steve Sarkisian. Not a whole lot of real in-depth details, but Eric, there was some stuff that you heard that confirmed, you heard from Sark that confirmed some of the reporting you put on Inside Texas in recent weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, that happens all the time. I encourage everybody to go watch the video we posted a little earlier. You can see the confidence, as Roaster mentions. The one thing that stood out to me, I want to offer him something that stood out to me, was he said the first year they had a GPA was 2.33. The team went 5-7 and had 0 draft picks. He said the second season, 2.79 grade-wide or team-wide GPA, 8-5, 5 draft picks. Year 3, 2.98, 12-2, 11 draft picks. And he used that as a way of discussing buy-in, guys doing the right thing, them molding young men. He said, who you are some of the time is who you are all the time. I really like that. So he was drawing a correlation between the buy-in, the program build-out, success team-wide, but guys doing the right things all the time, not just some of the time. That one struck me as, first of all, it struck me as crazy that their GPA was 2.3 across the team. They must have forgot to count the walk-ons or something. But clearly they're on the right path in every way within that program. But yes, the confidence certainly stood out to me because I remember going there, 2 years ago, or right after he was first hired, and you could see why he was hired. He said all the right things. But since that time, he's gained confidence because he's done all the right things. He backed up all those words. he mentioned today that he was trying to speak a lot of things into existence, and it's pretty clear that he's done that.
One of the things I thought was pretty funny. He got a couple questions related to the SEC, and one of them was I think one that makes sense. He was asked about the A&M rivalry. Most of these players, if you think about it, they never played A&M, and even kind of when they were growing up watching football, think about it. 13 years ago is the last time. Well, if they're 18 to 22-year-olds or around there, that means they're 5 to 6 years old. So they may not have been football conscious the last time Texas and Texas A&M played football. And he was asked, is it going to be possible to get these guys fired up? And I don't remember the exact quote, but it was real short, real confident. Like, don't worry, we're going to be able to get these guys ready to play a rivalry game. And obviously that's a plus considering they're heading into a hornet's nest on Thanksgiving weekend. Kyle Field will be probably as loud as it's ever been. But the other one was about SEC officiating. And he made the note that at Alabama with SEC officials, who Steve Sarkisian's obviously familiar with, they had 2 defensive pass interference penalties and 2 defensive holdings in that one game. And he said that was more than they got in the Big 12 all year. So there's a little what was it? Damning with faint praise or something like that. Maybe that's not the right cliche, but a little bit of backhanded slight at Big 12 officiating, something that we all saw throughout the course of the year. Justin, here's another good question about recruiting, kind of going back to wide receiver recruiting from a guy Working Man. He's asking about Jamie French from Mandarin, Florida. You actually had or from Mandarin High School in Jacksonville. You actually had an update on him on Inside Texas not too long ago.
Yeah, Monday, during the day Monday, Chris Jackson went to hang out in Mandarin High School and not just see Jamie French, but talk to his coaches, talk to his teachers. His parents even came up there, and they were able to talk a little bit. And it reminded me of when he went to St. Louis last year and spent the entire day, where Ryan Wingo was, and learning his coaches and his parents and talking to teachers rather and parents and things of that sort. And so, listen, all I know is that Texas loves Jamie French, and each time these guys talk, Jamie French likes Texas a little bit more. I think that visit on campus in April was ginormous. Like that guy could, and a lot of times we have to factor in the post buzz visit. It's kind of a little bit of a high, and you get that when you go see Texas, but it's still growing. Like, you talk to him after the fact, since he's been gone, since he's been to other campuses, he loves Texas. I was even told by a source that, Ohio State was considered the prohibitive favorite over the last 6 or 7 months, or whenever he decommitted from Alabama. I'm told maybe that's not the case anymore. And, he doesn't have an official visit scheduled to Ohio State right now. He had told me that he's waiting until potentially the fall to take it. But in the same sentence, he's going to make a decision before then. And so I like where Texas is there. I think Chris Jackson's giving him the attention he needs. I think they've got the focus there. They're going to go big. Listen, they got about one more cycle where they can sell. You want to catch touchdowns from Arch Manning. They get about one more cycle where they can use that as a good selling point. And I think Jamie French is a perfect fit. Him or DeCorian Moore, that's a 1A, 1B on the Texas big board. And I think Texas is closing that gap. I think it's going to be between them and Tennessee at this moment. I'm not closing the book on Ohio State. Those guys do a lot of good things. And Joe, you even mentioned to me before, that depth chart is a lot more inviting in Austin than it is in Columbus. But yeah, Texas and Mr. French, they're getting closer and closer. And like I said, it's got kind of a Ryan Wingo vibe to it. And we all know how that worked out.
Yep, it does.
I think I cracked a joke the other day. It's like, I wonder if Chris Jackson went over there when he was coaching with the Jaguars, and maybe, but obviously he's got bigger fish to fry, and did so with.
Hey, I'm just waiting for you two to tell me to, get in the car and go to Jacksonville, Florida. That's all I'm waiting for that call.
No. I already told you, you got to go to Jacksonville, but Joe's got to go to Destin. So that's one of my poor geography, especially the East Coast, reared its head. I thought Jacksonville and Destin were a lot closer, but somebody's got to go to Jacksonville, and we'll foot that bill. That tells you all you need to know. Remember, you went to see Wingo. We started to feel real serious about that one. I think you're exactly right that this one feels like Ryan Wingo, and a lot of it has to do with what you just said about that visit, spending all that time at school. I'm all aboard investing your time to go to Jacksonville. Better you than me.
Destin's what I call the Alabama part of Florida, and Jacksonville's just on I-10, so it's one straight
That's
shot.
a straight shot from Houston, right?
Exactly. Go through New Orleans. Go
Hey,
through,
but so is Santa Monica. I'll take the West Coast.
one more wide receiver question. How many wide receivers are they going for in this class? 4 from Eric. Justin, you think the same thing?
Yeah, if Kelshawn Johnson jumps in this class, it is definitely 4. But I think 4 is the loose number right now. If they get DeCorian Moore and or Jamie French, I think it's going to be 3 or 4. But I'll go with 4 because I felt like Kelshawn still has that spot open. And I think if he jumps in, then it's definitely 4.
Well, we have just over 1,700 watching right now between YouTube and Twitter. Thank you for watching this. Head to Inside Texas. You can use the promo code IT1 and get 2 months of Inside Texas access for just $1. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, help us out, help us bring a lot of great stuff your way. We got a little bit of an NFL draft question from our guy, Chris Bennett. Which player other than Xavier Worthy was drafted to the best situation? Worthy obviously is a great one, but now that there's probably a need for receiver in Kansas City, and you've also got the best football player on the planet throwing you passes. But what about any of the other 11? I like Ryan Watts to Pittsburgh. I think we talked about that one a little bit. We'll see what position he ends up at. But Eric, what do you think about the 11 Longhorns who were drafted, who found a really good fit, something that you are a big proponent of?
Well, I mean, I'm flattered that people care what we think, but we talked to Sark today, and he gave us his thoughts on this. You know, he mentioned Worthy as an obvious one, but he also mentioned Jay Witt going to the Rams. You know, obviously he's very close with Sean McVay. He mentioned how he's had some success with Cooper Kupp. He didn't say Witt is Cooper Kupp, but he could see him thriving in that offense. Ian Boyd has had similar thoughts. He also mentioned really liking A.D. Mitchell in the Indianapolis offense with the young quarterback. Obviously, he's got some serious upside. Maybe that's Sark's bias towards wide receivers and offense in general playing out, but those were 2 that stood out to him. I think I'm definitely on board with Whittington. I don't know as much about the Colts. I think guys like Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat, if they play to their capabilities, it doesn't matter where they go. You know, what defense can't those guys play? And obviously you probably want Byron more of a 4-man front. But I think you can't keep that guy down. So Tavondre Sweat, good situation. But I think Jordan Whittington and Sean McVay, I really like that. I think it gives him a chance to stick around, and not just stick around, but stick around for a contract or 2.
Justin, what are you thinking on this question?
You know, that I asked Dane Brugler that during our segment on Inside Texas YouTube channel. Please check out that interview. Dane was tremendous. I kind of asked him, like, who do you think was kind of found their best spot where they were? And he thought that overall – sorry, I just saw one of my favorite dudes just popped in. It's not a Wednesday Night Live unless recruits are watching.
I'll get to that one.
That's what we're talking about. So I'll make it quick. Eric stole it. Dane told me he thought Jordan Whittington was probably the best fit for where he went. And and we both admitted we didn't even know if he was going to get drafted. And so we thought he might be a priority free agent like Keelan Robinson. He said that's another one that was a really good fit because of the new special teams rules. But overall, I kind of agree with him. I think Jatavian Sanders in Carolina is huge because there's nobody else. Like Jonathan Brooks and Jatavian Sanders are going to get opportunities. Now, that's a franchise that's retooling and rebuilding, and they're building around Bryce Young and that group. But the quickest path to the field is in Carolina. Jonathan Brooks could be your starting running back week 1. I know they planned that. Jatavian Sanders could also be the starting tight end. And so all of them, we all have a sense that they all, somewhere good. I love Tavondre Sweat in Tennessee. Byron in Seattle makes a ton of sense because the Seahawks love Texas defensive tackles that run that 4-man front. But I'm going to go with Carolina and Jatavian Sanders. I think that's the biggest one. And not to mention that Eric, stole it with Jordan Whittington to the Rams. The last pick that the Longhorns had in the 2024, draft might have been the best fit. I think that him in LA is fantastic.
Hey, I'm with Working Man here. I knew that guy was getting drafted too. There's just too much. He's just too good at football outside of the obvious receiver stuff. Tenacious, good special teams player. He didn't show that at Texas because he didn't need to. But he's got those traits that show up. Could have been an all-world safety. That's going to show up when you play special teams too. So happy for Jay Witt.
Justin, here's your guy, Tredarian Ball from your neck of the woods, checking in on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. 2026 running back and one of your favorites in the class.
I think on 3, I can't remember exactly where it on 3 has him ranked. I think 24/7 has him as the number 2 tailback in the country. I think on 3 is like 4 or 5 range. He's climbing up and he's earned it. When he ran that 10.5 at the track meet a couple months ago, that's what puts you on the map. I mean, his film is tremendous. He's productive. He's sharing the backfield with Javari Johnson, a 2025 running back that's also a recruit. And yet he's still getting his. He's still doing what he's doing. Miami offered him today. I actually caught up with him a little bit, just to give him a congratulations. I know that Coach Choice is scheduled to come see him soon, and I know that's a big deal because Texas and Tredarian have been really connecting. But that's another guy. He's got 30-something offers right now. He's earned every one of them, and I'm just thrilled that he's linked up and watching us tonight.
You'll be going to Jacksonville and you'll be going to Texarkana, it sounds like, to go see the Tigers, right? In Texas High with
Texas High
Stanford.
But see, when I go to Texas, Texarkana, there's multiple reasons. Because I got Lance Jackson 10 minutes from campus at Pleasant Grove, come back to Texas High, you get Tredarian Ball, and then don't forget Liberty Ilo's 5 minutes on the other side. DeQuayne Prevost, he's going to be back in Austin this June. He's got a number of offers, including Texas, and so Texarkana and the Horns, they make a lot of sense right now. That's good for me.
Thank you for joining us, Tredarian. Thanks everybody for joining us. Over 2,000. Antoine with a good comment. We want Smith Orogbo. Eric, he's an edge, I believe, from A-Leaf, correct?
A-Leaf Hastings.
A-Leaf Hastings, and another top prospect in the Houston area. I think on 3 has him ranked extremely high. Visited, I think, for one of the either junior days or recruiting events or both. What do you see in Orogbo, and what do you know about where the Longhorns stand with him?
Yeah, I think that might be more of a question than a chant, but I'm with him if it is a chant because I think he's a really good player. He's a smaller Charles Omenihu, like a Omenihu that would play buck instead of growing into a jack. He's not going to get that big. He's more narrow. He's not quite as big, not as big of a frame. But he's very athletic. He's more athletic than Charles was. You expect that with a little bit smaller frame. Very long arms, tenacious player, really uses his length well. I think he's a good athlete in space as far as, change of direction. And again, that length coming off the edge, it doesn't take a lot of strides to get to the quarterback when you have the length that he does. He's a very good player. It's hard to get a good feel of how hard they're recruiting him right now. I think it has been a little up and down. I know he got offered in January, and I don't think the connection was there right immediately. I think he really liked OU right out of the gates. I think OU offered around the same time, and they've been more aggressive so far. He did visit in the spring. We do have him coming in for an official visit, right?
June 14th. 14th through the 22nd.
14th through 16th. If he's there from the 14th to the 22nd, I'm gonna put in RPM real quick.
Yeah. I get confused in late June because of our birthdays. I get a little because our birthdays this year, we're going to celebrate in Austin, June 21st to the 23rd, because that's the big OV weekend. Yep, so we're going to do it big. So we need more. Our listeners, our viewers, and our community come hang out with us.
Yeah. So bottom line, I'm not sure that they're going to push all in for him, but I do think that they've got a good chance if they do. You got to watch OU in that one. He's a really talented player. On 3 is super high on him. I think they've got him 25th, 28th, somewhere around there. Do you have it up, Joe?
No, I can look, but that can lead into this comment from Patrick Page. Looking at the edge position, his wish list is of Lance Jackson, obviously the commit, Hayden Lowe from California, and Dame Shanklin from Indianapolis. So those are Pete Kwiatkowski's, some of their top targets. Obviously, Smith Orogbo is in there. Does that fit? Does that hit all the different positions in Pete Kwiatkowski's defense, a 3-man class that includes those edges, Justin?
Jackson's absolutely. Lowe is going to be on campus, I believe, in early June for an official visit. He was supposed to come down for one of the spring scrimmages, and he wasn't able to make it. But there's some sort of connection there too, so we're following that. Dame Shanklin's one that we haven't. I haven't been apprised of as much because I think he's probably going to stay closer to the East Coast. But my man Patrick Page, he's going to dream big. And when Sark's your head coach and you get 11 guys picked in a weekend, You're allowed to dream big. Go ahead, Patrick.
I talked to Shanklin's coach, and he seems pretty open. I think he was everybody had him shoehorned to Notre Dame, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. Notre Dame is still in it, but the coach sounds like he's definitely open to going further away from home. Something that Sark said today at the Touchdown Club was, their goal is to get guys on campus at least 3 times. If they don't get them on 3 times, they're not nearly as confident as they would be otherwise. So some of these guys, Hayden Lowe and Dame Shanklin, I don't feel great about. Lance Jackson have been on campus 500 times. I think somebody that needs to be talked about a little bit more is Marco Jones. He's been on campus a couple times. He's going to take an official visit. Everybody used to think of him as a linebacker. I did as well, but he keeps growing. He told me he's 6'5", 240. Obviously not playing linebacker at that size, and he's got the tape to play edge. He's a very physical player. Very talented player. I think he's underrated in some regards. He'll be taking an official visit to Texas, and he's always liked Texas. So, that's another guy that when he was playing off-ball linebacker, Jeff Choate made good inroads over there. Johnny Nansen picked up the mantle when Choate left for Nevada. Visited him twice during January, I think, and that's right when Nansen was hitting the road for the first time. So if he goes and sees him twice, that tells you quite a bit. So I think Marco Jones is one to watch for sure.
It's a question I've got, I guess, is how much has Johnny Nansen, I guess, kind of developed into what we've seen Jeff Banks and to a certain extent Tashard Choice be for some recruits in the Southeast? How much is Johnny Nansen? I know these are defensive players and that he's got experience coaching that position, but how much has he helped with overall defensive recruiting, especially in recruiting in general, especially on the West Coast? Because when I talked to looping it back to Javion Cole, he said Johnny Nansen was the one that reached out to him. So how much has Nansen, just as a volume recruiter, helped in his area of the country on the West Coast in his short time at Texas?
Well, I'll say, his familiarity is going to help out. That's where anybody that goes in the portal that somebody he's familiar with is going to help. And obviously that happened with his own defensive tackle, helped with Jay Toya, who he coached previously as well. So, you always want to take advantage of the familiarity that your coaches have. They've done it with all these coaches in their certain regions. For when Sark put together this staff, they all had ties to a certain part outside of Texas as well. Bo Davis in Mississippi, Terry Joseph in Florida, Tashard Choice had Georgia, and Tashard Choice was still working off his Georgia Tech big board last year. So that familiarity helps out a lot. We're really going to see Nansen's impact in the next cycle when they start really going after his preferred targets early on. Right now, he's kind of cleaning up from a really good fortuitous in-state bounty with Riley Pettijohn and Elijah Barnes. But when we'll start to see his impact, I think, more next cycle, or when they start to offer more 2026s, especially out in California. I think anybody out in California, whether offense or defense, Johnny Nansen's going to be a guy he's going to be a point man on that recruitment.
Justin, anything on that?
No, I think Eric nailed it. When he was hired, my first thought was they're going to get a big-time linebacker off the West Coast. That was my first thought. I never envisioned he was going to be the forefront of some of these portal guys. That was the short-sightedness for me. But Eric nailed it. This guy's got familiarity down there, and we may not see it manifest in 2025. I bet you see a slew of offers and people coming in from 2026.
It's going to be fun to see. They're out on the road. Steve Sarkisian. It's kind of funny. He drove himself to Houston today for the speaking engagement. He's got his coaches out on the road recruiting right now. They even threw some offers out across the country, including to some tight ends in Georgia as well. So it's going to be interesting. We'll see wherever some of these coaches pop up. And one of the questions I think that's worth getting into is, how is Kenny Baker doing on the recruiting trail? Obviously, he's from an area of UT Chattanooga, a school in Georgia, I forget which one, kind of that Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama circle, and then a brief stint at Western Kentucky. That's where he's from. That's where he knows. That's where he's got targets. He's obviously kept Brandon Brown in the fold. But Justin, how have you heard Kenny Baker or returns on him so far in his efforts recruiting?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to Zion Williams. If you sign Zion, Kenny Baker was successful in 2025. He came in a little late, just like any other coach in the transition. He got the relationship built a little late, according to fans. But when Zion came into Austin in early April, Baker killed it. Like, that was a very, very good one-on-one session with him and Zion and his family. And I think that really resonated, the fact that Zion hadn't made it back to LSU yet, who I think is the top competition. Holding on to Brandon Brown. That's going to be tough. I mean, Baker has his hands full in this 2025 cycle. We'll know more, I think, of his chops in 2026 when more of those offers go out and you start seeing some more of those guys come on the campus this fall and next year for sure. But look, he's already coming back to Dallas to make sure he gets the last FaceTime with Dominic Williams. I think that shows some nice effort. But if he signs Zion Williams, success. Check. Box checked.
Eric, anything on that?
Yeah, starting in January is tougher than it sounds. It used to be perfectly or right on time to start a new cycle, but you're already late. We saw this with Chris Jackson in his first cycle. Didn't really get off to a banging start, but made up ground on Ryan Wingo. I think Baker's making up ground on Zion. That's the guy you got to land. I also like the giant kid out of Tennessee that visited not too long ago and picked up an offer. That kid is athletic. I'm drawing a blank.
Charles Leonard.
There you go. I knew it was a hyphen. Good thing the hyphen curse got removed a few years back. If you get Zion and hold on to Brown, I'm happy. Go get a couple out of state kids, if nothing else, in state perks your interest. I think still talking to Chase Sims some. He'll be okay. Texas will make sure he's okay, and then it's the next cycle where it's going to be where it really I think he's going to start to make a difference. But he does need some skins under his belt. He's going to get negative recruited for his lack of production as far as developing talent. But again, how many NFL defensive line coaches were assistant D-line coaches? Pretty much anybody you'd want. Eric Henderson, everybody. He's the cat's meow right now over at USC. So many of those guys were assistant D-line coaches that became stars. I trust Sark on this one. You should let it play out.
Joe, did you like that other question from Chris Bennett that was right before that? I didn't know if you wanted to dive into that or if we would just keep it low for right now.
No, we're good on that one. Between baseball and basketball, they still need a big, but that's I think that's the last.
There might be more to just needing a big. Pay attention. Come to InsideTexas.com. There could be some basketball news that you need to be paying attention to.
Yes, use the promo code IT1. You get 2 months of Inside Texas access for just $1. Again, that'll get you through July 1st. That's a week after official visits end, and by that time, there may have been a commit or two that you're going to want to know about at that point. Make sure you also like this video, subscribe to our channel. We just crossed 7,000 subscribers, and we want to help, and we appreciate the help that liking, subscribing gives to us. Help us get to 8. Thank you for watching on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Eric, thanks for joining. Justin, thanks for joining. This has been Wednesday Night Live on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.